Today we're going to be talking about an interesting topic that's going to be negotiations. So I would like you to think clearly now about how would you feel if I walk in here to class and I simply state to you that I'm here to help everyone develop. Period. You're listening very closely now. And I would like to know what exactly you can provide. From Ms. An to Mr. Chun, what exactly can you provide, knowing that I'm here to do anything to help us develop? So what can you provide? You're going to be providing me with money? Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Yes, it is. It can, I'm talking about anything. It's up to you. Sure. I will always be interested in hearing what you can provide for me.
I'll provide you something like new product, so you invest it and we can share it.
This is negotiation. I stood here, all I said was, I'm here to help us develop. Period. I stopped, and I waited, and I waited, and I waited. There was a lot of silence. Some people were very active to talk and contribute. Some people actually said they would give money, they would give me part of a company. All I did was wait, and you gave me more. And more. And more people talked than normal. Why? I didn't really do anything special, did I? No. Yes, I did. There's a difference between nothing and silence.
Like if you silence.
What I'm talking about is a big international negotiation topic that a lot of people misunderstand. I will talk about that soon. We must understand, a lot of people, they'll follow the English media and watch CNN and they'll listen to what's going on in Europe or in North America. And in Europe and North America, those are largely Western cultures. But Western cultures are not always the best at international negotiations. If I talk about a New York minute, what does that mean to you? What is associated with a New York minute? What do you think of if I just say a New York minute? Punctuality, on time, okay, what else? Generally, maybe I'm a little bit old, but there are many songs out there talking about in a New York minute, and it refers to going very fast. Anything can happen in a New York minute. You've got to go fast. Many people say in North America, time is what?
Money.
Time is money. What does that mean? It means you've got to go fast. That is the North American concept. What does this mean in Korea? I know it's our country area code for phone calls, but what else? Bali bali means hurry, hurry, faster, faster. Would you say North Americans are faster or slower than people in Korea? Are Korean slower? So North Americans are slower. So if people say time is money in North America, and generally North Americans think they're very, very fast, but Koreans are faster, now you understand the Japanese style that uses silence and respect. If you meet a Japanese person at a business meeting, they will give you their name card, and then they will stop. It's with two hands. They will give it to you. You should take it with two hands and stop and pretend to be interested. And say, Or just be quiet and look at it. And look at it. And look at it. Many people might feel uncomfortable in the very fast Korean environment and in the North American environment. That applies to negotiations as well. With negotiations, if there's a long period of quiet or silence, many people will feel uncomfortable. And some people will try, as you did in class, you will offer me money, you will offer me part of your company, and I did nothing. I'm just being quiet. So when you're trying to negotiate, it definitely helps to understand values of people, cultures of people, where they are from, and what they're used to. Think internationally. Think about international management. Think about what our class is talking about. Using silence can definitely help you with negotiations. I'd like to play another mind game with you, a game in your mind, while we get ready for the class PPT. I want you to think about a guy and a girl. They're walking just outside of our class. Boyfriend, girlfriend. They're just walking together. Everything seems nice. It's the fall colors, the trees are changing color, it's a beautiful day. They seem pretty happy. You've got that picture in your mind? Looks great, right? They're both happy, no problem. Now, the girl starts crying. What happens next? You give me a sentence. The guy begs. Okay? What else? The girl leaves. Next, what else happens? They fight? Okay. No, I'm asking you not to guess of why. I'm asking you, what is going to happen next? What is the girl going to do next, or what is the guy going to do next? In 1 second, or 1 minute, or 5 minutes, what is going to happen next? Yes?
The guy is trying to stop her crying.
The guy is going to try to stop her from crying. Okay, great. How can the guy do something? How can he stop her from crying? In North America, a lot of the people, they study, they talk, they think individual detail, generally about myself. I'm happy, I'm doing this. I'm a nice guy. If she's crying, sucks to be her. But I'm happy, maybe. Or maybe the guy will be more like most of the world, which is group-oriented and thinking like the group, and he will try to do something to get her happy. Like what? Let me repeat. the situation that should be in your mind. The only thing in your mind, right, to start with, it's a beautiful day, two people are walking, they look like a boyfriend and girlfriend, they both look happy, it looks like all situations, all conditions are good. The only thing that changes is the girl starts to cry. So one person has noticed the guy's probably going to do something to help her. You tell me next. What else? What's the next step?
He will try to figure out what's happening with her.
Okay, he's going to think in his mind, but what do you see?
She's going to say, what was her dissatisfaction?
She might say something, but what if she doesn't? What if the only thing she says is nothing? She uses silence, but starts crying. What is that guy going to do?
He has to ask her for, well, I mean, yeah, ask her to say.
Okay, so he could ask her questions, but what if she says nothing? What if she uses Japanese silence? What if she's just quiet, but she's crying?
You offer to her more and more things.
He's going to start giving her things. He's going to start offering her things. Don't cry here. You know, life is good. Want a milkshake? Want a drink? Want a beer? Want some flowers? Is that a crazy idea? Is that normal? So we've just looked at two things. We're studying negotiation, and the first thing was nothing is silence, is valuable. Saying nothing, giving silence is very valuable. You can win or improve your negotiation ability just by silence. Next, you can improve your negotiation ability by crying. The girl just cries and gets many gifts. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying you should think about these things and make sure you understand that some people say emotion is bad. Some people say you should not be emotional when you're doing business. But I just gave you one example where you're doing nothing, silence, but the emotions of the other people become uncomfortable, and just because of your emotion, you give me benefit. The next was one person starts to cry, or one person looks emotional. I didn't say she was emotional. I didn't say she's feeling bad. I'm just saying she looks emotional and she gets benefit. Those are two examples where emotion can help negotiations can be helped by emotions. You must understand the big difference between being emotional and thinking and wise management. Do not cheat people. That's not good. If the world keeps getting smaller and smaller, you keep working with people more and more around the world, and people find out you're lying or cheating, you will be destroyed. Your business in the future will not be good. So be normal, be ethical, but understand emotion can impact negotiations. Why will somebody say you should not be emotional when you negotiate a big contract? Why would anybody say that? I just gave you two examples when emotion helps. So now I'm asking you to think, why do people say, and many, many people say, don't be emotional when you're negotiating a big business deal? Don't be emotional when you're negotiating a big contract. Why would somebody say that? What is in their mind? Yes?
If it's your personal thing, you can cry or yell or whatever you want, but then your things being constantly happy, so you should not play any
if it's just you and not a company, you can be emotional. But if it is, you can do anything you want. It's just you. But if it's a company, you should not. Why?
Because if you add your emotional stuff in the negotiation, like company to company, then you're starting to put the benefits that you want to get, and like contract might go into the different results.
Isn't that more risky? Because
Any other comments? Any other suggestions from other people? Yes?
because people think that when someone becomes emotional, that person cannot be rational thinking.
Many people think that if you are emotional, you have chemicals in your body that change your brain and do not let you think clearly. Yes, being emotional, having all those extra hormones and chemicals in your brain do not let you think clearly. So they say, do not be emotional when you're negotiating. Please understand, that makes a lot of sense. You need to use your intelligence, use your brain when you're doing business, when you're managing. But you also must understand that the appearance of emotion, or just the fact of emotion, can help a negotiation process. So with that in mind, we're starting the class. I highly suggest you read many of the topics on Japanese negotiation, read many of the extra materials on Chinese negotiation, read materials on international negotiation, and this is an image of a book. It's the Western Negotiation from a Harvard project, Getting to Yes. This is talking about Western negotiation. But it starts with the Western person saying, generally, do not be emotional, or separate emotion. Don't associate with motion. And then it ends talking about how Chinese negotiators are unorganized. And Chinese negotiators might be crying or yelling, and they seem unorganized. You should understand that international negotiators, even the Chinese, or especially the Chinese, might be super well prepared for the negotiating. That's why they are arguing. That is a good thing to do sometimes. So with that in mind, we'll start the presentation. Again, we're talking about understanding Chinese and Japanese negotiation today. I'm going to be going through the review. Obviously, we've talked in our class about management theories, motivational theories, everything from Maslow, Herzberg, McGregor, the development models, talking about developing in the United States within 100 years. Japan took 70 years. They benchmarked other countries and they grew fast. Korea benchmarked Japan and other countries and grew much faster. We talked about how the average high school student in China was very, very different and studied more than the average high school student in India. And they studied much, much more than the average high school student in North America. And we also have been looking at GDP growth and GDP per capita, and we know that, surprise, surprise, overall management is growing much, much faster in these areas than in the areas that are not working as hard or working as smart. We talked about parochialism, and parochialism being ignorance, thinking that you know best, you know everything, and we understood that that's how most people are born, and eventually you're taught there are other ways of doing things, but it is incredibly hard to naturally accept some other view as very, very good or as good as your own. Immediately, most people think ethnocentrically, your view that you understand is good, and anything you don't understand might be bad. And that is bad for international business and international negotiation. We've talked about the cultural differences. We've gone through all of these theories. You are aware of Hofstede's power distance index, individualism index, uncertainty avoidance. For example, in Korea, a lot of people might be very certain of how to spell pen. But although you know, you are certain, 100% certain, you know how to spell pen, a lot of people will avoid saying, I know how to spell it. There's a lot of uncertainty avoidance here. And negotiating with Korean people need to take that into consideration. Versus in other countries, maybe they don't know how to spell it, but they will try and make mistakes. They're not worried about it. Make sure you understand that when you're negotiating. Maybe somebody's going to negotiate with you and say many things, but he doesn't know what he's talking about. Or he has no ability to make that contract. That also impacts your negotiation and your management. We talked about Hall, where his theories at the beginning of our class talked about how some people don't use a lot of words. I am not one of those. I use a lot of words, as you know. Other people use a lot of words. So make sure you understand that. If you're dealing with or managing people or negotiating with people of these other cultures, you must understand that. And then of course there's the Cluckhorn models, Trampagnar, Schwartz, the Globe Project. All of those are talking about how there's many differences between people. We must understand these differences in order to do effective management and do effective negotiation. Then we talked about Sun Tzu and the art of war. And the most important thing he's talking about is it's best to know who you are, and then you must know the other person so well so that you can win without fighting. Again, that comes into the intelligence. Know these characteristics, know what's the interests, and then you'll win. The next thing that I'll point out here is this, just the bottom line. I'm not going to go through all of the review very quickly, but there is no absolute superiority or inferiority in competition. But there is definitely the illusion of somebody is stronger or not. And because of that illusion, because some people think other people are good or bad, that impacts you. Some people think he is wealthier than me, so he has to change. It's important to understand, and in class today, you should be aware that the East Asian model that shows somebody that is older and usually more wealthy than somebody else, what do? If you meet with an older person for dinner, what do you usually expect? Who is going to pay for the dinner? The older one. 100% of you know the older person has to pay. Who made that rule? It's just the environment that influences you. So when you're negotiating, you could just walk up to an older student every night and have a great meal without having to pay. But there's been a study recently in North America, a very, very different environment, very different culture, very different values, and it has shown that most wealthy people, or the people that think they are wealthier than the other, usually turns around and becomes more and more aggressive with the negotiation. The complete opposite of East Asia. In East Asia, it's natural. If you're wealthy, you're supposed to give more. If you're older, you help the younger. But in North America, studies show the facts are, if you are normal, everybody thinks we're all equal. But if you are good, if you are powerful, if you're smart, they think you're going to become higher level. And so they think just the good person, the good in their mind, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but some people think the good person is going to be wealthier. And so they deserve more because they've studied harder or they've worked harder and they've got that more success. So that person will take more. Some people see it as greed. That's a negative, it's a short-sighted view. But just understand the environment has an incredibly strong impact on what you're managing and who you're managing, and definitely how you're negotiating. It's interesting. Later in this PPT, I'll show you this study, and it showed how two people, the exact same income, the exact same social level, the exact same wealth, are brought into a room for an afternoon, exact same situations, and they play a game. But the rules are, one person has a special type of dice, basically 2 dice, and the other person has 1 dice. And so when they roll the game, when they play the game, one person gets to go farther and gets to go faster. And that, just that, makes that person almost always win. If you're playing Monopoly, the more you go around, every time you get $200. So one person with the 2 dice automatically is going to get more money. And what they've noticed with this game, when they start, 2 people are identical. But as the game goes on, the person that is given the advantage, that becomes high class, that becomes rich, becomes more and more greedy, becomes more and more less accepting. If you don't pay my rent, you die, game's over, I win. And at the same time, the person that is started with the 1 die, they become more and more jealous. That's okay, go ahead. If the bank can't find the money to pay me my turn, I'll wait till later. They become interesting, maybe crazily, more and more generous. Nothing changed with the people except the environment. But their minds changed. How they conduct themselves, how they manage these things. So please understand your environment, your culture, your values definitely impact what you're doing and what you're saying. We talked about Japanese management style. Obviously with negotiation, Japanese management style deals a lot with silence and deals a lot with collectivist decision making. We talked about in Japan and in East Asia, Japan and Korea for sure, there is the big association with the triangle. What is the triangle? Who is in the triangle in Japan? Universities are one part of the triangle. The government is another part of the triangle. That's the universities or businessmen. Businesses. So the top businesses, the top government officers, the top universities have this triangle where they control almost everything. What is the top university in Japan? Tokyo. What's the top universities in Korea? Sky. You don't need to say university is the top private. Or Sky universities. Also Seoul National is good. Korea University is also good. Those universities generally, are they really different? Not really. Human beings are human beings. But why is it that Yonsei makes almost all of the top executives of businesses in the country? Most of the top lawyers and judges and government officers and business people are from Yonsei. Think about those things. The same thing with the big businesses. Most of the laws, most of the rules of your country, most of what you think is natural every day, even when you're talking to your friends, what you think is normal and good is generally something that has been put in your mind by the big businesses. Hyundai says it's good to be loyal. Samsung says it's good to be number one and have the best technology. It's surprising almost every Korean person has those values at the core. What is it called when some top person comes from part of the triangle into another part of the triangle? What's it called when somebody descends from heaven? Yes, Hakuna Matata, right? The Lion King. Would you like to say it again properly? Yes. Make sure you're aware of those things. They impact management and they definitely impact negotiations. We have many things that are talking about international management that we went over and we reviewed. I'm not going to talk about too much of them. It is interesting to see how Japanese companies, chaebols are different than the keiritsus. We talked about even most people are generally the same. Definitely in Japan and Korea, you'll have layers of society built up in much the same way. You might have different names for them, different words for them, as you can see here, but you will have the hierarchies in this part of the world, and negotiating and management with these make a difference. Introduction to negotiations now. Chinese negotiations are known as tough negotiators. Some people think, for example, that they might not be tough negotiators. Some people think they're not organized. Please understand that there are characteristics that are definitely helpful with international negotiations. Major reason for Japanese-American negotiation failure is just the cultural difference. Misunderstanding, being parochial, being ethnocentric. Chinese are very good with the art of war, the art of negotiating. Many tactics and methods in negotiating. Despite these characteristics, Japanese and Chinese use their tactics in very different ways. What do you know about negotiations in East Asia? How is business done here? What is one thing you have to do to get a contract? You start and you're supposed to give a very good quality image. Be polite, be professional, have the proper suits and attire, show the respect just with your clothing that matches or respects the other person, give the name card, give the proper level of greeting and the bow and the respect. What else? Drinking. Drinking. Drinking specifically alcohol. Why? I'm from Canada. I'm from Toronto, Canada area, and a lot of people in Canada would think, oh my God, he's an alcoholic. He drinks. When he's working, he should be fired. The Canadian view is black and white. You do not drink when you do business. That is bad. That's what people think is good or normal there. What is the view in a company here? If I was the manager and you were all working directly for me in a company, and let's say some unknown worker, Alex, comes in late, his eyes are red, and he said, sorry for being late, I'm still drunk, I was at a meeting with clients last night. What would you think? What would happen in the Korean office? Would I be angry at him? I would basically be giving him a handshake. Good job, way to go. We need to give him a special prize. He was negotiating with the clients. He's still drunk. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That's a good thing. Wow, good job, Alex. The opposite of North America. Why? Okay, culture, but what does it mean? Why? Why is it that North Americans think Alex should be fired immediately? Versus here, we think Alex should be immediately given a bonus or a good job. Alex is good here, terrible, almost a criminal in North America. The opposite. Why? You're definitely thinking of the culture again. Again, what Hofstede's identifying, the collectivists. You're taking care of people. The art of war, that family thinking style. The client is so close with me, we're sharing secrets, and they're true secrets. We're not lying. We're too drunk to lie. We're bonding, becoming very good friends, very good family, brothers. So just having that ability, some people say, is very, very helpful for management internationally, or especially in East Asia. But why? Do you have to drink? Half of our class are women here. And some people would say that Alex, the guy, probably, if he's drinking with girls, those are probably hired girls. There's students here that saying, yes, he basically bought some sort of prostitutes or hostess girls. And so, good women, some people think you should not be associated with that. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying that women are generally considered better at management than Alex. The typical Alex. Why? Yes, the whole point of management in East Asia is the relationship, socializing, being more personal. I'm not saying all women are different than men. God knows there's a lot of men that I know that are more social than I am. But some people say that women might be thinking more about birthdays and relationships and your children. How's your daughter? How's your son? They'll be thinking about that more than the regular guy that might be thinking more about the sports game or something else. I'm not trying to say that's good or bad. I'm not saying that's what I think. I'm just saying that there are some people that think that way. What you should be understanding when you're negotiating, the purpose of negotiation and management is building good partnerships and connections, building your Guanxi. So if you are able to negotiate with the other person and openly, honestly, talking about family values and your kids and your growing, that fact that you're getting close with the other person means you are going to have a closer, more honest relationship with the other person. It's going to be easier to deal with that person. So that aspect definitely helps. So we must now think about in Korea, that idea that I just said, it might be less popular than what it should be. And it might be less popular than what it should be in Japan. There's a different stratification of men versus women in Korea. It's definitely changing very, very quickly. The president of the country is now a woman. That's great. But look in China. In China, women are definitely equal to men. There are many women that are in executive positions, CEO positions, top management positions. And Chinese alcohol has a higher percentage of alcohol than the Korean alcohol, usually. So now we start looking at the Chinese negotiation style. There's a lot you can learn from there. You women that are interested, and you men that are interested in international negotiations, please understand those characteristics alone when you're just hiring somebody or looking for partners or looking to grow. They make a big impact. Successful business tactics in China and Japan. Obviously, there's focus on quality and quantity of social relations. We're going to be looking at contracts less in East Asia than we would in North America because of the individual focus in North America, the individual detail in North America, the individual wording on a piece of paper is very important. It's more important than in East Asia where we're focused on the relationship, the overall idea. And in that sense, contracts traditionally were not popular here. They are developing very, very powerfully, very, very quickly in East Asia. But you have to take back and forth the idea of implementing a contract and the idea of the social relationship. Social relationship trumps the individual contract. Social relationships are more important here, definitely, than in North America. It's the opposite of North America. Make sure that you understand that when there are going to be problems, there's special things that you need to do. What happens when a typical person on a subway in Japan, Korea, or China bumps into somebody else? Both of them are busy. One person's walking quickly this way, the other person's walking quickly the other way. How often do you turn around and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, are you okay?" Very, very rarely does that happen. Everybody knows that when the international education, that's the nice thing to do, but you forget the face value, the core culture in East Asia is that you don't want to make somebody else feel bad. This was a mistake. You deal with that mistake in a way that's culturally acceptable. You feel bad, you did this. The other person feels bad, they did it. So in East Asia, you're negotiating, you don't turn around and say, "Hey, you foolish person, you just hit me, and I'm sorry and you're sorry because we're both foolish." You don't talk about it a second time. You just go on and allow them to save face by pretending it didn't happen. So that is another aspect of the international environment that impacts things. What about people? I started and I got you to think about how do you manage if you're quiet? Then I got you to think about how do you manage if somebody starts crying? Now I want you to think about how would you react? If you travel across the world, you're representing a huge multinational company. Or you're just representing any good multinational company. Maybe it's not huge. But you're in a position to negotiate a big contract. So you're about to do your job, flying around the world. You land in your customer's city. You show up at the meeting. And there's 10 people waiting to take you out for dinner. And you start negotiating the contract, surrounded at the one table by 10 people. How do you feel? Do you feel powerful that 10 people came to talk to you? What will be in your mind? In North America, a lot of the times you're negotiating details, you'll have one person coming to negotiate with another one person. They negotiate, they sign the contract, they're finished. Nothing else needs to be thought of. But here, it's different. In North America, the idea of one person coming to negotiate just means that one person has power. Having 10 people come, what does this person think? It's kind of impossible for everybody to have power. So some of them must be kind of low level. So you're just going to be looking for that one powerful person. A lot of the time, the top powerful person, the person that actually has the power to sign the contracts, isn't even there in East Asia. They're sending other people to entertain you, make you feel comfortable, and you will start going through contract negotiation discussions, maybe getting drunk, maybe sharing a lot of details, maybe arguing about the contract terms, but at the end of the night, they can't agree or sign the contract because that's the CEO's job and he's not even here. So what happens, those 10 people get all of that information that you have been giving for 10 hours, and then they give it to the CEO and they find, okay, they're going to give me this, maybe they'll give me this, they feel really, really uncomfortable with this. The CEO is 10 times more prepared to negotiate very productively. So having many people meeting somebody is again just part of the management style, just part of the negotiation style. Another aspect is if you do have many people around just you alone, and you know that your job is to negotiate $1 million contract, you have power, will you feel a little bit uncomfortable? First, you're in a new city, so yes, you're going to feel a little uncomfortable. It's not your home. You're surrounded by people that are friends. Closer friends than you. You don't have any friends there, so you're going to feel a little bit uncomfortable. They're going to be laughing and chatting and joking, local language jokes that you might not understand. So you're going to be more uncomfortable. But, what's in the back of your mind? I have the power to negotiate this big contract. So you're going, a lot of people say that psychologically, whether you want to or not, you will try to feel more or try to look more or try to have the image so that you look more powerful. You might start giving more away. Just like the boyfriend and the girlfriend, with the girlfriend starting to cry, you will give more away to look powerful, to look equal to these 10 people. Even without negotiating the exact contract terms. Just because there's many people around you, you might start being more generous. So again, that's part of the environment. And that is one of the core characteristics of Chinese and Japanese negotiators. They will come to negotiations with many people. Make sure you're aware of these details. Also, the team leader, in addition to going to negotiation with many people, the team leader coordinates the interests on the Chinese side for these many people to collect information and then turn around and give it to the top guy that will sign the contract later on. More and more things are changing. More and more you will have East Asian people, Chinese people, Japanese people negotiating directly. More on the normal side. But be prepared if you encounter these situations. Sometimes you will find companies, yes?
I didn't really understand. So Chinese people, when they're negotiating, they go into a team?
I can't say yes, because that is definitely going to be wrong. China has more than 1 billion people. Some people negotiate very differently than others. But yes, there's a stereotype of Chinese negotiators where stereotypically, which means it could be wrong, many times Chinese will have many people coming to the negotiation. The same time that North Americans will have one person or maybe 2 people coming to negotiate. That's the stereotype. But you know that stereotypes can be wrong. And more, as we develop, you realize that sometimes just having too many people is wasting your resources. So you might have just one person in China negotiating with you. It's your job to find out, who is that person? Do they have the power to sign the contract? Or are they just a pawn, or are they just a puppet that's building our relationship and getting information from me? Nowadays, I know for a fact that sometimes you'll have many people coming to meet, and you'll also have just one person or 2 people coming to meet. There's more than 1 billion people in China alone. It depends who you're dealing with. You should just understand each situation. You must understand, why is it just this one? Who is that one? Why are there, now there's 10 people. Who are these 10 people? Who are the important people?
Does that stereotype originated from Western perspective? Or is it like common knowledge?
You can talk to the history professors about what happened in the past. I'm just telling you the facts, the way it is today. When you're negotiating, when you're managing people now, stereotypically in China, there will be many negotiators in China, and stereotypically, generally, you'll have few or one person negotiating in North America. There are advantages and disadvantages of that. One person, you can negotiate and do everything very fast. Time is money. But they might think you're bad if you're just going in, signing a contract, and leaving. What does that mean? That could mean you don't care about them. And many of the people here think most important is loyalty. Most important is family. Most important is long-term growth and development. So it depends who you're dealing with. The third from the bottom point here, after I talked about other participants, lawyers. Traditionally, lawyers are considered, I don't know, dirt, scum, terrible everywhere in the world. No comment about that. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying that, that some people think that's the way it is. What is a fact is that China did not used to have a big value, a lot of importance placed on lawyers, because it was just the trust. It was the relationship you're growing. More and more, you're moving from many negotiators that are growing just the relationship with the loyalty. More and more, you're changing to just one person negotiating a contract, and you might be able to sue others. And so you're having more and more of the lawyers present. Lawyers are definitely growing in numbers and power almost everywhere in the world. Sorry. So make sure you're aware of the laws, not just the contract terms. Frontline negotiators. Also make sure that you understand that they might just be expected to gather information. You might meet one person, or you might meet 5 or 10 people. Maybe they are not able to sign the contract. Maybe they're only just getting the information. When negotiation starts, Chinese first look for consenting arguments and agreements in general. Why? Right at the very beginning. Sometimes a lot of the Chinese negotiators will start with just agreeing to things. It is on purpose, especially in Japan. A lot of Japanese will be starting by saying nice things. You look nice. How's your family? How's your company? Oh, your company's doing very good. They're saying things to develop that relationship, develop the loyalty and the partnership together. Make sure that you're aware that if you just walk in and start saying, okay, here's my product, and here's the price, please sign here, and we've got a deal. We're going to make lots of great business together. That is considered not good for relationships. You're only focused on the money, you're not focused on helping really me, then some people might think you're not good to do business with. And so you're supposed to start, especially in East Asia, with the name cards. All of you should have name cards, since you can make like 500 name cards for like $3. Have the name cards, show who you are, find out the level of respect, start giving them the level of respect that they deserve when you're negotiating, and then building a relationship. Building the relations so that you can have a longer term future with them. Start with agreeing, start with talking about the pleasantries, the nice things, and then eventually you'll come around to the business. Very different than in North America. A lot of North Americans don't even have name cards. I phoned you already, you know my phone number. I emailed you already, you don't need to get a piece of paper with my email address on it because you have it. That's just wasting paper. Some people think, we already chit-chatted, what's the bottom line? The New York Minute, time is money, do we got it or not? Make sure that you're aware of these details. So you're supposed to be looking for, in East Asia, agreeable points. What are possible points to discuss? Can I talk about religion? Can I talk about politics? Can I talk about sex? No? What can you talk about? Business? Well, you're not supposed to be talking about business when you're starting, right? Maybe the weather. Beautiful environment.
How they're doing, greeting.
Let's think about this. If you tell your grandmother or you tell your grandfather that you have been dating somebody for a long time. You didn't see them for several weeks, but you just met last night for dinner, or you just met last night. What do you think is the first thing your grandmother or grandfather is probably going to say? Did they give you delicious food? A lot of the older people, for example, the president of Yonsei University, if he wants to show he cares for you, he might take you out for a delicious meal. That concept, focusing on giving you delicious food. I'm going to take you to a nice restaurant. How did you like that delicious food in the past? That is a sign of caring. Remember, what is this situation thought of in North America? If I take you, if I am the manager and you are working for me in an American company, and I bring you all out for dinner tonight, how would the American worker feel? Could you guess? The American worker would probably feel, oh shit, we've got another work meeting tonight. I can't go relax with my friends. I've got to pretend to be nice and professional at work. And remember, I'm not allowed to drink. And even if I want to drink on a Friday night, whatever it is, I can't do it in front of my boss, because he will think then if I'm an alcoholic, I can't do business well, and I might lose my job, I won't get the promotion. So the North American view is going out to dinners is actually negative. It's bad. Despite what an East Asian person might be trying to do. He might be coming just to try to negotiate good terms and make you feel good, develop a relationship with you. Royal Bank of Canada, one of Canada's biggest banks. They wanted to do business with one of China's big banks. China's banks are some of the biggest companies in the world. So they want to start partnering together, doing business together. So the Royal Bank finds this guy that has the world's best education. He's a Canadian guy, but he went over, he was educated at Yonsei University or Beijing University or Tsinghua University, and then he came back. He's got the top education in this area, so he's been given this project to develop relationships with the Canadian bank and the Chinese bank, and now he's bringing over 10 people to Canada because he knows from his school that they like to go to Canada because it's part of a work tourism. It's a work program, but at the same time it's tourism and it's luxurious for them, so they're very happy. And he knows that food is important, so he gives them very good food in Canada. So this new graduate is very, very happy to bring over all of these presidents and executives of big banks, and he brings them into this big meeting room in a hotel, and he stands up and he says, okay, thank you for coming here. We look forward to having a good contract negotiation tomorrow morning. Please enjoy your meal. And he sits down and he starts eating. What's the problem with that? Is that good negotiations? He brought over many people because that's what many people typically or stereotypically in China want. He's talking small talk, friendly talk, which is what he knows stereotypically, whether it's right or wrong, stereotypically East Asian people want to have that relationship chit-chat. And he knows that a lot of them, especially the older people, think there's nothing better than giving good food to somebody. That shows you care. And he's doing this at a nice fancy hotel room. So what is the problem? Yes, he is forgetting the idea of respect. What is the problem? What is the missing with respect? Maybe he ate first. If he starts eating first, that is disrespectful. So that's like taking your Chinese partner, slapping him in the face. Number two, what is another problem that he did? He brought people in an open space, maybe an open hotel restaurant with many other people around. Yeah, that could be considered kind of rude. We came all the way here around the world. The least you could do is have a good close relationship, a one room just for us to feel like we're special. Yes. Versus in the Middle East, it's the opposite. People in the Middle East want to be open with everybody around. People in China want that private care. Okay? So that's another slap in the face. What else? Maybe. One thing that you're forgetting is the simple idea of age, right? He just graduated university. Who's the president of the banks? They're old farts, right? Old guys, old girls. These old guys came to negotiate, and some little guy, your age, is now controlling me. That means this young guy, is supposed to be on the same level of me. That's a huge slap in the face. What is in their mind is generally age and hierarchy are related. Powerful people come with age. And so if I am powerful and I come here and you have some young guy coming to meet me, yeah, that's okay if he wants to take my bags. But to actually take up an hour of my time just for a young guy, that's a huge slap in the face. In generally, you're supposed to provide somebody that's at his level of value. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying stereotypically that's what some people will be considering. So if you own your own company, you invent some internet company, which like Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook, you could do and become a billionaire and start negotiating with these people. But if you go in as just a young person and negotiate with these other people, they might feel very uncomfortable. So how can you manage that? Have these older people next to you to make them feel comfortable in their area, in their mind. The parochial or the ethnocentric views, the values, the needs, and the wants of what they want. Chinese perception of compromise is it's different than the West. In the West, what is compromise? It's generally regarded as horse trading. It's not an opening of a position. It's not win-win solution, but it's half win, half lose. Chinese people see there's the high opening positions. Every one of you have probably been to Hong Kong, China, Japan. We send you there with Yonsei University on your trips every year. Probably every one of you have gone there and you've thought you want to go negotiate and buy your Louis Vuitton bag. You want to buy your Chanel watch, your Cartier watch, whatever it is. You walk into the room, you get ready, your wallet's out, I'm ready to negotiate, here's my money, give me this bag. How much? Is that what you do? No, absolutely not. Many Asian people, many Korean people especially, you'll walk around with a lot of cash. You do not in North America. Having cash is like a printing forehead. Come steal this from me. Come murder me. Come mug me. So you might have a lot of cash, but you don't do that, here's the cash, I'm ready to buy thing, first of all. You start with what? Oh, this thing that you love. Oh, that's okay. How much is that? Right? I'll give you 10 cents for it. I'll give you $1 for it. I'm too busy. Right? You start with these big negotiation plans because you know you're going to start here, or you're starting here, and they're going to start here, and you have to negotiate in the middle. You're building the relationship. What you do and what they do generally should respect each other. You don't just walk in and say, here's my price, take it or leave it, because they're going to say, this is the price, and you have to go higher. So these ideas of setting these high opening positions, moving to a compromise position, playing up the idea that when it's said and done, the common interests of both sides will have been recognized. That's expected here. Can you do that? If you are managing a business in Hong Kong or China, and you have that store, is it safe if you have somebody from New York that comes to China for the first time and they ask, how much is the bag? The wallet's out. How much is the bag? And you say, $1 million. Or maybe the bag, many bags nowadays, especially the students might be like $10,000 purse. Let's say your purse is $10,000 and you're going to be selling it to me. You would start by saying it's $20,000 or $30,000 or $50,000. What's the North American going to be thinking? Time is money. That's crazy expensive. See you later. They're not even going to negotiate. The price is the price. It's set. The fact is the fact. Individual, detail focused. Something about it. Maybe it's filled with gold inside. I'm just not going to buy it. So be careful when you are managing, when you are negotiating with these Western people, you understand what they're doing. What is the best way to deal with that? Usually when you're negotiating, whether it's with a Western person, a Chinese person, or your boyfriend or girlfriend, one of the tricks that seems to be very helpful is you start by getting the other person to say, what do you think it's worth? How much are you prepared to pay? There seems to be an unwritten rule in Samsung. When I've been working with Samsung, I've never seen it in their manuals. There is no textbook that Samsung says you must do this. But I swear, I promise, I think every one of the people I know working at Samsung knows one rule. And the rule is, when you're negotiating the price, Samsung workers must always, always reject the first two offers. Doesn't matter if it's a great offer. I just reject it once and say, can't you do better? Meanwhile, inside I'm like, wow, it's already a good price, it's a good price, it's a good price. But the Samsung rule is, I must reject. And then it comes back with an even better price. And I'm like, oh, really, really, really good. But you reject the second time because you're going to get better results. Be careful. It's very, very valuable. You might get good results, especially when they are starting with the numbers. And they will almost always become closer and closer, better and better for your interests. But because the world is globalizing, and because these people are starting to realize more and more time is money, they might think that you're just out to cheat them and you don't really care. So make sure you can show, as we say here, that you're both compromising. Okay? For example, oh, I really want this bag, but I might not be saying it to you, the seller. I'd be saying that, well, I actually only wanted, or my wife only wanted a small one, and that's not really what she wants. Okay? But I will go to it because it's a good price. You came down this much, so I will change this much. Then we're both happy. Maybe it's not lying. Maybe my wife also does want the small purse. It depends on how you're going to be negotiating. There's several videos. Please look online. Please start checking some of them. Some of them are quite funny. Obviously, you should understand, especially in East Asia, that loyalty, relationships are very, very important. So don't insult the other person. Make it into a joke. Develop the relationship. Keep people happy. Being positive, being optimistic, being humorous is generally the best way to negotiate. However, understand that international negotiating, jokes are the hardest things to manage. You must also sometimes prepare for not having direct answers, especially with the Japanese style. Korean people, Chinese people, North American people, they will definitely say, especially North Americans, no way, I'm not paying that. But some of the people in Japan, they're so much more focused on keeping your face happy, keeping you looking good, feeling good. They're not going to say it's bad. They're going to probably give indirect answers. Oh, it's kind of nice. What about smaller ones? Broad agreements in Japan. Mutual understanding. Make sure that sometimes no in Japan is hard to hear. Sometimes yes in Japan. Do you understand? Do we have a deal? Maybe it just means, yes, I understand, you're asking if I understand. So make sure that you understand these details. Japanese are also different. There's similar but different things with restrictions for the contracts. There's always going to be room for flexibility in the contracts with the Japanese. They want to, again, save the face. Japanese prefer making a contract based on sincerity and goodwill. Mutual understanding and sincerity demonstrates by both parties. The groups, the sizes of people in Japan are also very big. Sometimes there's overwhelming size just to intimidate the other person. Sometimes you might have many people coming to the negotiation table just so the other person that flew from North America all by himself has that uncontrollable ability to be more generous, to appear more powerful. When making a decision, the Japanese value the wider variety of opinions. More of that Z management style with McGregor's theory X, theory Y, theory Z. More participation from more people. They might bring in different people from different departments to check, is the engineering department happy? Is the manufacturing department happy? Is the sales and marketing department happy? Are the operations people happy? More of the consensus building. Stages, there might be different stages. Initial stages of contract include preparatory discussions, preliminary discussions, important setting the tone for the relationship and the work. Chinese, Japanese are rank conscious. Of course, you need to be able to understand that. If you get to negotiate with the top people, that's very good, but sometimes it helps to start at the lower levels. Learn from the lower levels, just like what you're doing with your term paper. All of your term papers are basically due now. You need to be able to start handing in these drafts and presentations. It's a good idea when you're developing your term paper to start with researching low-level peoples in the company, learn what they can tell you to prepare for higher-level people. Then when you talk to the higher-level people, you're more prepared. Then you go to the next higher-level people. That's the best way of getting your jobs in the future. Welcome back. We have just finished talking about the East Asian management. There's big differences with Chinese management, Japanese management, and even Korean management operate differently. Now I would like to talk a little bit more about a very interesting book, Getting to Yes. It's a popular book that describes, as we see on the screen, how North Americans typically negotiate. This book was created by William Urai. He's a Harvard guy. In general, there's 4 main points that he talks about. With his main points, he talks about separating the people from the problem. I started our class discussion recently showing you that emotions can impact negotiations. The emotions of being uncomfortable with silence will create effects. Japanese use that. The emotions of having many people around you will impact the negotiation results. Many Japanese and Chinese and Korean people will use that. The emotions of being drunk and having alcohol will impact negotiations and truth and honesty. So people will use that. The idea of talking about your relationships, your family, your kids, your birthdays, that definitely will impact the relationships and the negotiations. So it's very wise to use that. That's what we're talking about, at least that's what you should be talking about. It's not what they were talking about here, but make sure you understand, don't just focus on the people. Make sure you understand you can separate the people from the problems. We can't deal with a problem when people misunderstand each other and emotions are going crazy. Business people and leaders need to respect organizations, probably like reviewing ourselves in logical, level-headed fashions. Please be aware of these things. The next thing to focus on is what is referred to as before I get into teaching something new, reviewing, first of all, what does this relate to? Yes, 8282 in Korea, the number is pal-i, 8282. It means what in Korean? Fast, fast, hurry, hurry, go quickly. Everything in Korea needs to go fast. It's somewhat much faster than the New York Minute, faster than the North American time. It's talking about, why is it important? It's talking about how some people manage very, very quickly. You must understand the fact that some people want to go fast and are uncomfortable with slow processes, and some people want to negotiate and give lots of words, are uncomfortable with lots of silence, will impact negotiations. Another thing that will impact negotiations that you should always be aware of is this. What does this mean? Anybody read getting to yes? Yes, thank you very much.
Best alternative to negotiation agreement.
Great. In the future, when you're speaking, please use the microphone. But yes, it stands for the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Two people are going to come together. They want to make an agreement about buying something. But he wants a pen, he wants to pay $1. If that's the only thing that they're going to be thinking of, there's a good chance you won't get a negotiation. What if they have just this? And what if he only has a $10 bill and this guy has no change? Even though they're super happy, all they want is something to write with. To sign $1 million contract, somebody might refuse because this isn't proper for a contract. Or they might refuse because they don't have change for something, completely overlooking the fact that they could agree. So always think of the environment and think of, what does the other person really want? They might say a product and a service and a price, but almost always somebody wants something different. Almost always their real worth, their real interest is different. Be aware of that. Focus on the interests, not the positions. Start in a positive way. What do you want? How do you think of that? Is that a good question? Just saying, do you want a pen? Do you want to pay $10? Those are dangerous questions. They could very easily say no. Or they could very easily say something different. What is a safer thing to do with negotiation? Focus on the interests, not the position. For example, simply saying, why do you want this? I have a customer, we need to sign a contract. Fine, I can give you this, or I can give you this, or I can give you the first thing, I might give you this. Oh, no, 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 I can't accept that. Why can't you accept this? Because the customer is very, very traditional, and anything signing a name in red is bad luck. Fine, I'll give you one in black. Oh, great, 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 great. So understand not just what do they want, but why they want it. Sometimes comes up with much, much better results. Many people don't know what their problem is, or many people don't know what their position is. Many people don't even know what exactly they want. They're just being sent there to do things. So it seems easy to ask why, but you're going to have to understand that if the other person is parochial, if the other person's ethnocentric, they might not know. So you need to be prepared to ask these special questions to find out what it is they really will benefit from. You can many times provide something different that they will like better. And that is the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Next, in addition to focusing on interests, not the position, the next is mutual options for mutual gain. This whole concept, they point out that though people succeed in diagnosing the problem, we still tend to take the view that our answer and that alone is the correct response. It's not normal. having premature judgments is normal for people. So if they just simply say no, ask why, what it is they really want. Why? How are they going to be using this? Where are they going to be using this? Maybe I can get you, my company can give you better pens right next to your office rather than in our store right here. Searching for a single answer. Don't just search for one answer. Search for many possible answers. Maybe you can give many answers in a better way. The assumption of a fixed pie is very dangerous. Some people think our class, for example, you get this many grades for exam 1, this many grades for exam 2, this many grades for participation, this many grades for your paper, for example. And some people think that's the only way you can do it. Why is a better thing to say. If you go through traditional thoughts thinking these are the only things possible, you are hurting your own future. Ask why you can get that. Ask, why do you have that? I don't care about the marking system. Just Guanxi, the administration, they want marking for results. I care about you learning. So maybe the answer is not just in this circle. Maybe there's a whole other project you could do. Maybe there's a bigger pie. Don't just think of one answer. Maybe there's other things you could do. Find out what are some alternatives. Mutual options for mutual gain. You show me your learning, we can have better results. You show me something else, different products, different services, then the customer might be happier. Many times money is not the issue. The last thing is insist on using objective criteria. Be careful with this. This is definitely a Western thought and not just an East Asian thought. If you're too logical, you will upset people in East Asia. Why? Because East Asian cultures are not just focused on logic. They're more focused on the relationships. And the relationships might entail, I have to keep somebody else happy because he's the father of the government officer or something like that. So not just the objective criteria, what are the details? For example, frame each issue as a mutual search. How can we make this better? What are the things you're looking for? Be both reasonable and open to reason with the standards. Never just bend to pressure. That's what some people say, but it's not always the best thing to do in Korea. For example, Korea or Japan, China, sometimes we say, okay, I'll give you this if you give something else later. What they're referring to here is, for example, with a lot of Russian negotiations will think, so many people in such a huge country, you're coming across the world, the world's biggest country, I'm never going to see you again no matter what. We have a good contract today or a bad contract. I don't care because I'm never going to see you. So I want the best possible results now. If they're good for you or bad for you, it doesn't matter. I'm never going to have a relationship with you again. Very different than the Chinese, Japanese, or Koreans that are focused on having a relationship, growing it in the future, being some sort of partner. So sometimes you must bend to pressure in order to develop better situations in the future. Understand the principles is the bottom line. There is one last video that we'll be talking about is something that was just published recently. I believe this came through, was it The Economist or Forbes magazine? It was very interesting. It's showing that the Western view of negotiation is definitely very, very different than the East Asian view. So please understand, sometimes some people will react in a certain way that might surprise you. You should understand why. For example, this shows rich people generally want better conditions. They think that they deserve better. And so because they're better, they have to get better terms. For example, in Korea, it's not just the Western people all the time. For example, a lot of Korean people only want to work with chaebols, the huge conglomerates. If you are a small company, they won't talk to you. They won't even negotiate and look at your product, even if it's the best in the world. Because they are the biggest, they're the best, and they should be getting the best treatment, the best companies to work with. And they'll be demanding something more. It's something to think about. I understand one student is aware of this. Do you have some comments? Did you want to say where you got this from? I would suggest everybody take a look at this YouTube video and the information in The Economist and Forbes magazine recently talking about this point. Go ahead.
We found a video called Money on the Mind. The guy who's talking in the video is called Paul Solomon. So in a series of startling studies, psychologists at the University of California at Berkeley have found that upper-class individuals behave more unethically than lower-class individuals. So ongoing research is trying to find out what it is about wealth or lack of it that makes people behave the way they do.
Thank you very much. Again, you can see the video link here. Again, YouTube, I highly suggest you watch this and get ready for doing your international management of your paper, getting ready to negotiate with the companies to present not the papers just to me, but present your final class papers to your companies would be a very, very good thing to do. Having a YouTube video will show what you're looking like and prepare for presenting yourself in a certain manner. Any questions about this? I think we're about finished. Any other questions? Thank you very much. Have a good day.